Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unscripted Hangouts with an amazing guest today who is doing everything against conventional wisdom and yet rocking it on the back end, Mr. Jeff Johnson. How are you, Jeff?
Fine, thank you.
And this is Jeff's first Hangout, so I'm really excited it's with me and with all of you. Guys, if you are watching us in the comments, please comment. We will take questions. And if you are part of the Inner Circle memberships, you can join the Hangout right here and talk to Jeff face to face, ask him any questions you have. To do that, if you are on the event page, simply click on the official site and you'll be taken to the Inner Circle where you can join us. So that'll be great. And what we are going to talk about today is if you guys don't know Jeff Johnson yet, he really lives under the radar, as far as I can tell in social media. He has a great mailing list, and every once in a while you get an email that says, "Hey, you haven't been opening my emails. I don't think you're really interacting with me. I'm about to dump you." Who does that to a mailing list?
I do.
Jeff Johnson does. And yet, he really racks it up as an affiliate marketer. He beats people like Frank Kern and Mike Filsaime. He takes their cars and he does like yearly lunches. So, Jeff, welcome to our first hangout.
Great, glad to be here.
Did I embarrass you enough?
Those guys beat me too, so it's all good.
It's all good. I know you guys are friends.
Yeah, definitely.
So, so for those who don't know you yet and are looking you up online and they don't find much about you, can you just share just a little bit, like 3 minutes? How did you get started with all of that, and how did you realize where you really need to put your focus on?
Well, I came out of college. 3 days after I graduated, I became a stockbroker. I thought I was going to be a stockbroker till the day I died, and then in 2002, 2003, a gentleman walked into our offices and said, "I've got an internet company. I need to raise $25 million for it." And that was too small for us to deal with, but I had to prepare a marketing plan so I could hand them off to our sister organization. And as I started going through the research for it, I hopped on an airplane. I flew out to a marketing conference in Dallas, and that's where I met Frank Kern and John Reese and Ryan Dice and all those guys. That was 2003, and we've been friends ever since. So I flew back, and they ended up offering me half the company that I was raising capital for. And I said, no, I think I could do this on my own. So I negotiated my way out of my contract as a stockbroker. April 15th, 2004, I wrote a check to my boss, walked out, and I haven't looked back since. So I really stumbled upon this, and it was a good call. I did have one other experience, though, online. In 1998, 99, I was playing around with eBay trying to help out my sister and my brother. They weren't working. And I said, well, this eBay thing looks pretty good. Turns out I was really good at making money on that as well. They weren't interested in it, so I walked away from that, forgot all about the internet, and then a couple of years later, next thing you know, I've been doing this full time.
And they've been like banging their head ever since, going like, "Ah, I should have listened."
Well, my brother's been working for me for about 10 years now. My sister, she still doesn't, but that's okay.
She'll get there.
Yeah.
So, so the biggest fallacy or the biggest thing that I feel with internet marketers is that there's a lot of, smoke and mirrors out there. A lot of people are putting up training, but it always feels like, you can never get the same exact cake that they're selling you. They're always going to leave out the flour or the sugar or something so they can upsell you something else. Where in your case, I feel that you're very honest and no bullshit type of guy, and then you also give tons of stuff for free. I mean, I met you and I started actually learning from you from all the free stuff that you shared. And if I just followed that by itself, I'll be great. How do you put all your good stuff out there and still make money?
Actually, it's funny because a lot of people have walked up to me at conferences and said, hey, Jeff, I've made hundreds of thousands or whatever they made, and I'm talking dozens of people. And I said, great. Well, did you buy something after that? Like, no, I didn't have to. I got it all for free. I'm like, man, I'm supposed to buy something eventually. But what had happened was I started out when I was a stockbroker. I was also a sales trainer, and I taught people if you're going to hunt for the elephant. It takes just as much time to go after the small fry that's got a few $1,000s in their account versus trying to find the people who have the $100 million or the $10 million. So I took that, and when I came online, I used that philosophy. So when I first started online, I was exclusively or affiliate marketer from 2003 until the end of 2005. And then I spoke at Yannick Silver's event, and I said, you know what, maybe it's time after all these years start teaching people this stuff. So I decided I was going to go after the cream at the top of the top again. So I built a blog, and I gave away some incredible content for free. And people still to this day are saying I'm doing that. And for me, it's like, great, I want people to succeed. I can only work with so many people. I've got a family to support. I'm the only one that works now. My kids are too young for it. And so I said, all right, I'd like to help everyone, and I do. I cranked out, I think I've issued 150, 200 videos on YouTube and things like that, and millions of visitors to the blogs. My philosophy is, this, I don't like to work if I don't have to. The clients means I got to work. So what I do is I produce the content, put some up for free, and then what happens is the people who really appreciate it, the people who gotten to the point where they're ready to work with me, well, they understand the price of doing business. They say, okay, well, we'll buy Jeff's stuff. And that's how I've designed the whole thing from the start. And it worked out quite well for me.
So, but it's very interesting because I think our, the newbie mentality is very of a scarcity mentality, right? And it's always, there's always the fear of like, but I'm giving you my best secrets. Why would you pay me thousands of dollars if you already have all my best secrets out there?
Well, what's interesting about that is I was sitting at a wedding 5 or 6 years ago, and a gentleman sat down and said he wanted to start in this business, asked me my advice, and I told him what my advice was. And basically it was take your product, take the best parts of it, start a blog, start giving it away free, go on social media. Then I saw him at another wedding a year later, and he's a very good friend of mine now. And he asked me for advice again. I said, well, what'd you do with the last stuff I told you to do? He's like, oh, I couldn't. It's my best stuff. I'm like, just give it away. And he eventually did. He ended up making money. And then a few years later, he actually helped me train some of my students in my program. When people are afraid to do it, you can't be afraid. You can't give everything away. Now, earlier you had said that there's always something missing. Well, I'm sorry, but there will always be something missing. I don't care if it's driver's ed training, learning how to ride a bike. They're predicated upon or have the presumption of you having prior life experiences before you ever get to them in the first place. So driver's training, they can have the best driver's training course in the world. They're not purposely holding anything back, but if you can't process visual and spatial relationships inside your mind based on prior life experiences, you're not going to be able to drive. If you can't react to something unexpected that comes up on the road, once again, they can tell you, okay, look out for a car backing out, but we know other stuff happens all the time. Well, the same thing's true with internet marketing. So you'll never give them everything. You could say it's your best stuff, but it's really not. Plus, people like to interact with you, like to be part of your inner circle, like your inner circle. So we set those up too. You want to talk to me? Great. Hop on a plane, come out to one. You were at one of my seminars.
I was.
I make myself accessible, but other than that, I hide. And I spoke at a conference, 2 conferences last month. First time in years I agreed to speak, and they're both friends of mine. And people say, well, I've never really seen you in person before. Because most of my videos, too, are PowerPoints. And people say, well, you must be you never get on PowerPoint. I said, no, it's just easy. And for me, giving away your good stuff attracts the type of people that you want to deal with. Now, you can hold scarcity-minded, but scarcity-minded people never succeed in life. And I'm not saying I'm not going to, I mean, I won't meet with people for free. I'm not going to fly out to LA, sit down with someone for 6 or 7 hours. But if they want to go to my blog and access all the information, I mean, there are in my email sequences, there's 150 training videos at least people eventually get their hands on if they go through each one of the funnels. So, and it's worked out well for me. And I'm not just an affiliate marketer, by the way. You said that. I just want people to understand. Actually, the biggest part of my business has always been selling my own products and services, but I started out for the first 3 or 4 years before I ever started teaching people how to do this stuff. I was killing it, still am killing it as an affiliate marketer. So some people think I'm an affiliate marketer. Some people think I'm a person who does his own products and services, but the reality is I do both. And that's how I think everyone can make more money. Don't be scarcity minded. If someone is a competitor of yours, at some point you've tried to sell someone on your list something 10 times. Well, if they haven't bought your stuff yet, okay, don't give up. Give them somebody else's stuff. And even if they do buy your stuff, nobody buys just one of anything. I don't care what it is, self-help, health, business, golf, everybody buys multiple things. And that's why for us, Frank Kern and Mike, it's all good fun. We have fun. I mean, we go to battle to win some of these prizes. They're $100,000 prizes. They're 100 bigger than that actually too. But it's fun, and I don't lie to my list about it. I'll even apologize to them after I've mailed the shit out of them all day. I say, sorry, but we're going for this prize. And then it becomes what's interesting. It becomes us against them. So Evan's like, oh, we can't let Johnson win, and Frank's like, oh, we can't let Evan win, and we go back and forth. We have fun with it, and I never ever. People know I'm earning a commission. It says so in every one of my emails, and I also bring it up. So yeah, that was fun. We made some money along the way.
So it's so true because I remember actually you saying, I don't remember if it was on a live event, the one that I met you in Detroit, or in one of your emails, but you said, hey, having people on my email costs me money. If you guys don't buy anything from me, then I'm not interested in having you in my email. We're not friends. Which is very interesting, in this era of content marketing and relationship that we're building, right? So you're basically coming out to people and say, hey guys, this is what I do, this is my business. give me your money. And if you don't, go to someone else and be on their list. How does
That's,
that work in building relationships?
yeah, I do believe firmly that I don't put people on my mailing list. It's not that we aren't friends, but I'm doing it to make a living. I also have my own life that I want to live outside of work, which is as much as I want to do. So I've added a million people to different mailing lists, but then after years, I mean, every 3 to 6 months, we're constantly cleaning those lists. And it helps with the deliverability, but also I spend $3,000 or $4,000 minimum on email every month. And we keep that for our database. And if you take somebody off your mailing list, what's really cool now, I don't know if you want to get a little sharing here, but
Sure, go for it.
I might not do social media personally, but I teach it. We test everything that we teach, and I guarantee it works. It's just what we do. We believe in testing before we roll it out. But for me, once again, I don't want anyone representing me on social media. So if I'm not going to take the time to do it myself, I'm just not going to do it. And that's why I'm not always on it. But we test it out. But Facebook allows you to take your emails and load it up for custom audiences. So we still take the people who don't necessarily open up our emails. We load those up to Facebook into what's called a custom audience, and we can target ads to them. We know that, hey, at some point they were interested in something we had to say. We just couldn't get them to take any action, so eventually we called them off the list. But then we blew up Facebook, and it's actually a great way, very inexpensively, to keep your brand out in front of them and hopefully get a click through, and they come and actually do something in the future.
So let's dive into the meat and gate of really building a business. So when you started, I'm assuming you didn't have that lifestyle in mind and going like, I'm not working on 9 p.m. Guys, just to let you know, I was trying to get Jeff on my show, Emerging Future, because the next question will be about what do you think is coming up for internet marketing and the online world. But Jeff was like, look, I'll promote you, I'll sell you, whatever you want, just don't make me show up at 9 p.m. This is not my lifestyle. And I love it. It's kind of like, this is my lifestyle. This is how I live, and this is how I set up my business. And this is why all of us here are trying to do what we do, right? We try to make money online so that we have the lifestyle. How did that build up for you? How did you like, okay, you know what, actually?
Designed it from the very start. So contrary to what you just said, I actually designed my business from the very start so I could live the lifestyle that I want to. And throughout the years, it's interesting because I do have staff. I mean, the biggest we've ever gotten is 15 people, I think 16 people. They're all stuffed into the offices here. But it's funny because we'd sit down at staff meetings, and I always believed one of the reasons I give away so much free stuff is because, okay, I don't want to have to work so hard for the sale. If they're warmed up, if I pre-sold them on the stuff that's free, then it's going to be easier for me to sell my high-end stuff. The first thing I ever sold in this marketplace was a $25,000 coaching program sold out within minutes. Nobody knew who I was. I stood up on stage, first time ever, it said it. And I've always built it that way, and I've told my friends and clients the same way. So we sit down and I say, okay, what are we going to do? What can we do to develop a lifestyle to get paid what we need to get paid to make it worth our while? And that's what it came down to. So throughout the years, I have new staff members, even the people who've been with me 7, 8 years now, they'll come to me with an idea and they say, I think we should do this, we can make this much money. So you know what, it sounds like a lot of money, but we're either going to have to train new staff, which is a pain in the butt, hire and train, or I'll have to reallocate the existing assets I have, which is my staff that's already been trained, and then we're going to have to take them off another project that's either profitable or not profitable. But chances are, if it's not profitable, we're not doing it any longer. And so I designed it from the very beginning that way. The only time I got off track for that was through the recession. I was freaked out like everyone else. So I worked really hard, but with me, I'm highly competitive. And people I say, oh, you're so laid back. But when I get sucked into something, I get sucked into it. So through the recession, I thought, I got to continue. Record sales, record profits. I'm not going to accept anything less. And we did it, made it through the whole thing. And as you know, we built my wife's dream vacation home. We spent our summers up there. It's something she's always wanted. And we built that, and we're sitting around, and on December 1st, 2012, she said, in the morning, we're talking about what we want, hopes, dreams, aspirations, what we did last year, what we want to do the next year. And she started crying sweetly, and she said, we have everything we wanted, ever more than we've ever wanted. She goes, all I want now is for my husband to be happy again. And I got so involved with the business for a couple of years when I was running scared, and we still had record everything. But at that point, I said, you're absolutely right. This is not how I designed my business. For all but those 3 or 4 years of the recession, I was laid back. People that my neighbors thought I didn't have a job because I was sitting in the backyard watching my kids. I took them to the playgrounds and everything else, and that's what I did. So I did design it that way, and my staff still to this day will say, okay, let's do this, and I'll say no. And they say, well, that's $20,000 a month. I said, that's not
worth it.
We're going to have to do more work to take care of it. And I was having beers. It was my 50th birthday Saturday. I told you that, right? We had a big party. Two
Yeah.
limited buses, 50 or 60 of us on a pub crawl. But some of the guys that couldn't make it last night, we were there and they were laughing because they said, "You never work." I said, "I work. You just don't see me work. I get up when I want. I go in, get the kids off to school, come into work, take care of it, and do it." So I think you always need to design your business. And you need to quarterly take a look at what you've been doing and say, okay, am I on track for what I want to do from a revenue standpoint or from a lifestyle standpoint? So I did design it this way from the very beginning. And there are choices that have to be made. Sometimes they're not easy. It's hard to say, okay, well, I'm going to give up all this money. But then you look at it and say, do I really want to work that hard? Do I want to miss my children growing up? And it gets pretty easy. So I can honestly say I've shut down several 6 and 7 figure businesses because I got bored with it or just it wasn't fun anymore. So it just there's always something new you can start. Always something new. And you'll always find people, a certain percentage of people in any market, and I've done this in multiple markets, different industries, there's always that level of people who will pay the extra dollar. So you can either fight for the scraps at the bottom or you can add the extra value and build a business you want the way you want it to. And you have to evaluate it. You have to go back and take a look at it. Say, okay, what are we going to do this quarter? And what are the new products we can introduce? And then you have to learn how to say no at some point. And that's
I love that because you really have your priorities in order. When I came, I'm from Israel, and in Israel, we work to live. So we take Saturday off, and we spend time with the family. And there's a lot of religious lifestyle around not doing anything and just enjoying each other. And then when I came to the States, it's kind of like you live to work. You work, you work, you work. Everybody's overworking, and they kind of like forget, why they're working, which is the relationship, the travel, the relaxation, the reading, all the stuff that you want to do that you like. I'll get there one day. So I really love what you said right now. So let's dive into this. I'm a newbie. I looking at all these shiny objects out there, I think, okay, the space is already filled because look at Jeff Johnson and what he's doing, and look at Frank Kern and his cars, and look at Evan Pagan, and his little girl. So how do I start? Where do I start? How do I find my niche? And how do I get started with my lifestyle?
first of all, it's a self-limiting belief if you think that's already taken, you can't do anything in any market. It doesn't matter which market there is, there's always room for other people. And if you're not scarcity minded, then you make friends with the other cool people and you can do business together. So it works out. I think the biggest
Wait,
thing
wait,
though,
Jeff, this is good what you just said. So what you just said, it's the relationship, right?
yes.
It's not the competition, it's actually the collaboration. I love it.
And when I met the original guys that I met, I wasn't even in the business. And then I just met them in the bar. That's where all the business happens. And started talking. I was at my next conference a year later, and some guy came and goes, "How do you know all these people? You don't even have your first product yet." So just hang out. And they've become subsequent friends, and they're very successful in the business. But you have to help people, and that's actually how I got started. Was I was already really successful, and I kept having people that knew it because I was showing up. People like John Reese would send me an email. I was like, "Dude, where'd you get all this traffic? You're sending me all this business." And I said, "Well, that's what I do." And I'd help him, and I'd help somebody else, just information. I mean, he's a great marketer, but I'd freely share the information that I had. And then when I finally wanted to take on, let's say, clients per se, after a few years, my kids were off to school full time. I said, okay, I don't have to go to come play with me in nursery school half days. So I said, I'll take on clients, and that's when I started introducing the free content that people had. So don't think that you have to say, okay, I can't go into this market because someone's already there. I think that's where you need to go. It's where the competition is. However, getting back to your original question, the one thing that I see is the biggest problem with people who fail in the marketplace, it's not always that they don't take action, although that's a big part of it. They see the shiny objects, and I've had clients that I've actually pulled in and given them space in my office and said, in my office building, and said, shut off everything and get the job done. And they're in my high-end mastermind. It's not like, but I've had several of them, and they don't because it's the next shiny object. So the first thing I have them do is unsubscribe from all the email lists. And then you have to decide what it is that you want to do from a business standpoint. Never once think there's too much competition. In fact, I teach my clients to look for the competition because if there's competition, there's money being made and money to be made by you as well. However, they either never get started because they're always looking at the shiny objects, or they don't follow all the instructions they're supposed to. But the biggest problem really is internet marketing is still marketing. They don't understand that you have to study direct marketing and sales. You have to understand the psychology of selling. You have to learn how to convert your visitors into leads and those leads into customers. So you can follow the steps of putting up a lead gen funnel, and they'll think they followed the steps correctly, but they don't get it. They miss the biggest part, which is who the hell is going to join that by looking at whatever it is this person just wrote. And so I teach them, Just go to Amazon, buy the old masters, the John Caples and the Gene Schwartz and Victor Schwab's and Maxwell Sackheim. I've read all their books. They're $10, $15 a piece. Now, you're not going to learn everything that you need from it, but I think the first foundation is you have to understand the market. So the clients that come in, they're usually inherently sales friendly. They're outgoing, they deal with people well, and when I used to hire stockbrokers, I'd look for people that could sell me on hiring them more than anything else. I didn't care if they were analytical. We've got stock analysts for that. I need people who are people persons that could sit there and sell people. And the same thing applies here. So, follow it, come in. If you can't write it yourself, you either have to hire someone else to do it or you have to do it yourself. But something else I see a big problem with newbies is they never try to learn how to do some of the basic stuff themselves, loading up the pages, doing some of the web designs, setting up FTPs or landing pages, whatever it is. And I'm all about paying someone else to do it eventually, but the turning point for me was I was paying people to do stuff that would take weeks and a fortune, and I didn't realize how long it was supposed to take. So then I decided I was going to learn how to do it myself. Just fundamentally, I wanted to learn how to do it. And then I realized I could do the same thing in 10 minutes that somebody else has taken 2 weeks for and charging me $1,000 for. Now, it's
Yep.
something you got to walk back away, but learn the fundamentals of the mechanics of it so you can say, okay, I know this person's charging me too much, or they're not doing a very good job, and this person's doing a good job. And when you interview them to do your outsourcing, you'll at least have a fundamental idea of what you're doing. But the single biggest key is you have to understand that this is still marketing. It's not a magic bullet. You still have to understand that people have to be, I don't want to say corralled, but they have to be convinced to buy your products and services. You can't just say join my mailing list and hope that you're going to get 60% of the people that come to your website to join it. And I see that all the time. It's just a little thing. It says, hey, join my mailing list. Well, what's in it for me is what the visitor says. You have to sell them on joining the mailing list. Your mailing list offer should look like a sales letter. And the only thing that you're selling is getting on your mailing list. I've had mailing lists where each person on the list is worth $163 per person when I first started out. 163 bucks per. And then now we do millions from our list. But we don't have millions on it because, as I said, I believe that if you want to be on my list, there's a reason for it. I've had people send my help desk emails that say, I really like your free content, but please don't send me any offers. Just send me the free stuff. I'm like, you know what? Good luck. You've been removed from our list. Here's our blog. If you want it, that's fine. I mean, and I understand where they're coming from, but they have to understand where we come from as marketers. We've got families and lifestyles that we need to support. So I think the marketing aspect is the thing people get wrong as newbies. And then it has to be one step at a time. I see this all the time. People get overwhelmed. They look at the big picture. They say, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. And I always say, and I still do it to my staff and my children, I'll sit them down and say, listen, what's the end goal? Everything has a series of steps that leads up to the end goal. Everything can be broken down to a series of steps. You can't build a blog before you know what you're going to put on the blog, and you can't put content on the blog until you have the final graphics there. So sit down and set out a timeline. Grab a book on process management if you don't know how to do it. Just simple process management. Break everything down into a timeline. It says, okay, I can't go to this point until this has been accomplished and this has been accomplished. And the same thing even when we're doing product launches. We know that, hey, there's a series of things that have to happen leading up to the launch itself. And I say, well, we don't need to worry about that yet because we've got these first few components and steps. So break everything down to a series of steps, get the small victories out of the way first, build up towards the bigger victories that are in the end, and I think that's the way you should be successful online. And there's so much to be made of.
I know, and I was part of your last launch, and seriously, guys, Jeff gives so much great content. So if you guys want any of his content, let me just share my screen for a second, because you'll see all the awesome stuff that he gives. Where is it? There we go. So if you guys go to my website right here on the bottom, you can get 77 step-by-step video tutorials.
That's one of my old lists.
This is your old stuff, I know, but this is the stuff on my site. So if you want his new stuff, this is traffic and conversion, right, Jeff?
Trafficandleadstrainingacademy.com.
And I will link to that in the comments. But this stuff that you're still giving, 77, I mean...
Really good stuff that's on the site that you were showing, but I think they need to go back and change the split testing on that page. I've seen some old offers on there. So,
speaking of split testing, let's talk about the long sales letter. I mean, when I was sharing that, people in my circles were like, who reads that stuff? And yet this is the one thing that you're saying converts. How does that work?
well, it's It's not a question of whether it's a sales letter or a sales video, whether it's short or long, because we've tested both. And it's really just a matter of what it is that you put in there. But when you got a $2,000 product offering, who reads it? Well, I don't expect people to read the whole thing. The most important part is the headline. That's what speaks to the audience that you're trying to target. So you've got to reach out to them and grab them the headline. And then the beginning of a letter is called the lead, whether it's a sales letter or a sales video. That's what sucks them in. That's what gets them involved with it. And then you have to make the offer. So when you're selling a $2,000 product, you got to make sure you're putting everything up there. So because you don't want to miss the one thing that one person would have bought because of, and you left it out. So who reads it? Lots of people do. And there's testing throughout the years, not just for us in internet marketing, but it's not a question of what's a perfect length. It's a question of what did you put in it to begin with. So I've been told that you can't have 45-minute sales videos. Well, I've proven them wrong. We've done $1.73 million in 8 days with a sales video that looked like crap that people said, oh, you can't sell anything that. And it was 45 minutes long. Well, you know what? I'll take $2 million for a piece of crap sales video in 8 days any day of the week. And
Yeah, me too.
people are like, why don't you do a talking head? I'm used to speaking to people, but I don't, because it's so much easier for me to go into my office when I want to go into my office. I don't have to worry about anything, shaving, getting the lights ready, turn on my PowerPoints and record. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, a guy who's worked for me for 7 years said, did you ever think you make so much money for just recording PowerPoint videos? I said, no. But it's the beauty. So it's not whether it's short or long. It's a question of how you design it and what you put into it itself. And the great copywriters, I mean, you look at Frank Kern, he's one of the best direct marketers online too, and he writes really long sales letters as well, and Dan Kennedy still does as well. I wish more people did it, to be honest, because I personally hate sales videos. I want the information now. I scan through a letter, just like I read. I just grab all the information I need to. I process it. If I like it, I might highlight it and go back to it later. But for a sales video, you can't scrub through it. You can only listen to it. You might be able to use announce and speed it up 2 or 3 times, but you're still listening to it for 40 minutes. They convert extremely well. But personally, if you give me a choice, I'll take a sales letter any day of the week, which here's a tip for you. If you notice, some of these $100 million companies, very successfully, what they've been doing is they'll send you to a sales video, and if you don't buy and try to leave the page, they will pop up a sales letter that's pretty much a word-for-word transcription of the video. They increase their sales significantly by doing it that way. And we do the same thing with our opt-in pages. We'll have an offer up. We get 50 or 60% of the people who come to the page to join our list, but there's still the other 40% of the people that leave without joining our list. So then we'll pop up a thing in the window that says, hey, don't leave yet, and I'm adding them to the same mailing list. All I do is change the offer, change the headline. So sales letters being long, they work very well. Sales letters are short, can work as well too, but I've never seen one that's really short that does extremely well unless it's augmented by a video. So if they have a video at the top that's maybe 3 to 5 minutes long along with a sales letter, you still need enough space to explain what it is that you're selling. And I think a fallacy is people believe that, okay, it's only a $7 product, I don't have to work that hard. Trust me. It doesn't matter if it's $7 or $700. You still have to work at selling people. And
Yeah.
get away with 3 sentences on a page and say it's a sales letter and hope that someone's going to buy it.
So if I understand you correctly, the funnel is you get them on your mailing list, and in the mailing list you give them a bunch of of your best stuff, right? So that's kind of like how you build a relationship. But on the side, at the same time, you keep selling them.
Yes.
And it sounds like you are not really interested in the small sales. You are more interested in the big ticket items.
Yes, most definitely. Well, first of all, there's 4 phases to an email series is what I teach. 4 phases. First phase is the warm-up phase. So you get somebody on your mailing list by giving them some great content. That phase is designed to make sure that you're letting them know who you are, you're building your credibility, you're building respect, you're building mutual admiration, reciprocity. All those things are part of the phase 1 email series. And it can be 1 email or it can be 3 or 4 emails. That doesn't mean you can't sell them in the first 4 emails of your warm-up phase, but it means the first thing you have to do is establish credibility and gain the respect and give them high-quality content. And then you can say, oh, P.S., by the way, you might want to check this out. Now, in our warm-up phase, what we do is we design our training content that we give away for free to actually pre-sell them and warm them up to the idea of buying our content eventually. So even though it's great content, even though they can take it, put it to use in their business, see all immediate results, well, we're opening up loops and future sales and also giving them the opportunity at that point to buy if they're ready to. And then you progress past that warm-up phase and you go into what is called the soft sell phase. And the soft sell phase is when you start talking about the inner opportunity. So it's less content in the email. It doesn't mean you're still not sending them someplace to get content, but the email starts to focus more and more on the opportunity. And that's where you make the easy sale. Those are the people who are already ready to buy. So it's soft selling. You don't have to do a lot of selling there, but you're still making the offer. And then you go into phase 3, which is start hard sell. Not hard sell in a bad way, but okay, we've condensed the email now to the point of, hey, I sent you some great content. Here's some more. But by the way, if you like this stuff, you really need to check out this training program. It's so much better for you. And then you go into the 4th phase, which is sell them something else. And that's where they've either bought your existing products and you still want to continue selling them more of your products, but you're also missing half of the business. And trust me, you're missing half of the business if you're not trying to sell them somebody else's affiliate product. So in the fourth phase of our email series, it's designed to be selling them something else. Try to sell them our products, then we try to sell them somebody else's product, and then we move them into another segmentation of a list for another product, another series of training content, and it moves them through the process. And by that last phase is affiliate marketing, we're not only increasing our income by at least 50 to 100%, we're also then building a relationship with the other people who see us sending them traffic, recommending their products and services. So ultimately, they'll reciprocate, and you guys both will end up making more, in my opinion, and experience.
Love it. I want to share some of the comments here on the event page. So first of all, Jeff, Elaine is saying happy birthday, and Crystal saying the same thing. Karen is saying that your philosophy is dead on. Seeing your children grow is something that too many of us pass up just to make a few extra dollars. Your advice to design your business around your priorities is exactly what I need to hear right now. So yay. And then this is a great quote from Crystal. If you're not scarcity minded, you make friends with other successful people who are already in the market and everyone becomes successful. Absolutely. So yeah, I love that. So with that said, let me check this. Where is it? Sorry. Artemis, let's open up. Guys, if you have any questions, we are getting to the Q&A part where you can just ask Jeff whatever you want. Those in the Hangouts can start interacting face-to-face. Just let me know in the comments that you have a comment. And those watching us, just put your comments in the chat and we'll have them answered. So Artemis.
Awesome. Great interview, Fat. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Yeah, I've been following you for years. First product I saw was Tube Traffic Secrets. And that was a fantastic product, by the way. I learned a lot. So I have 2 questions for you. One, what are your top 3 books for learning effective copywriting? And 2, where do you see yourself and your business in 15 years?
I'll be retired by then, but school I'm done, so I have about 6 years left. The 3 top books I think you absolutely have to have. The first one is Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz.
Uh-huh.
And it was written 50, 60, 70 years ago, so it's a little tough of a read. It's not quite up to modern standards, but he's an absolute genius. And in fact, I've collected 100 or more of his ads, and I use them when I'm writing copy myself because he has such a gift for teaching and for writing as well. Another person that you need to read, John Staples. He's got How to Make Your Ads Pay, and another good one. A lot of people talk about tested advertising methods, but I don't think that's the top one. He's got another one called How to Make Your Advertising Make Money. That one I think I like a little bit more than the one everyone talks about, tested advertising methods.
Cool.
They're all available on Amazon. And I have at least 4 or 5 copies, and I give them all to friends and staff members every time they come on board.
Yeah, I see the books on your bookshelf back there, and leaders are readers. So you've read a lot of books, and what you've read is probably gold in terms of how you implemented and applied it in what you do.
Absolutely. So where do I see 10, 15 years? I don't know if I'll ever quit. When I was a stockbroker, I tried to get out of management when we had kids because it was taking too much time, but I couldn't. I still wanted to teach people how to do it. But my son graduates in 6 years, probably less than that, 5 or 6. My daughter graduates in 6. So my wife and I probably want to travel the world at that point. But until then, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And fortunately, I built my business, so all I need is a laptop. We went to Italy a couple of years ago, and I don't speak Italian. My wife's cousins don't speak English. And they're driving me around trying to find a spot with an internet connection for me. They were driving off at these little stores. They knew the owners had some internet. It was like a 56K connection. And the owners wouldn't speak English, and my cousins didn't speak English, and they would sit me down, and I'd be sitting in the front of the store typing away. People would walk in and ask me in Italian for something. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, great. That's a great business. I love it. So who knows what I'll be doing then.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
You know, it's this is actually part of the lifestyle that you're talking about. You know, you don't have to be married to your business, and your business is following you. So, Jeff, you are not huge on Google Plus, but I encourage you, you know, to.
Sign in because my staff set it up years ago because we were testing something. We didn't actually use it, so.
But just so you know, on the phone, on the little Android, you can talk to it in English, and it will say the stuff in Italian, in case you need it next time. Mia, go for it, my friend.
You knew that was coming with the Google Plus thing. So it's a good thing you had us hidden in the film strip, because could you see all of us just like bobbing up and down as Jeff was talking? And I took a bunch of notes too. So yay, Jeff, consider me a new convert. Such a business crush on you now.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just saying. So real quick, so Ifat and I got to hang out. I'm going to name drop because it's so exciting. We were hanging out with Jeff Walker, Eben Pagan, and Yannick Silver a couple weeks ago, and now we're hanging out with you. So winning.
All very, very good friends of mine. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. That's awesome. So question you mentioned about process management. Do you have a book that you really like for process mapping or process management?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. I just
on the show.
Well, the problem is I had a mastermind here a month or so ago, and they wanted it, so I gave them all the copies I had, and then I ordered some more. And it's an excellent starter book. I'm trying to find it. She can remind me, she'll get me a list for it. But it's
okay.
One available on Amazon. It's like $20, and it's very simple. In fact, I've given it to several of my operations manager who then were able to take it and lay things out that they need to lay out also. Right.
I'm such a nerd for that, so I would love to hear what you think works for that. So. I'd love to actually peek your bookshelves. We should make you turn your camera.
Move the camera.
Oh, you know what? It's right there. Give me a second.
Okay. Now that's things getting done right there.
Exactly, the beauty of Hangouts.
That's GSD, get stuff done. I cleaned it up.
Mapping. Oh, wow, how funny. That's exactly what Mia was just saying.
Second edition.
Oh, wow.
I can't give it to you yet, so if you were here, I'd give it to you. But no, it's on Amazon. It's like $20. I've had several managers that came to work for us that I gave this to that didn't know anything about it, and they were able to put some very, very impressive process maps together for our staff. So.
Excellent, thank you. And let me just compliment you on your shirt wear, by the way. That's clearly showing what your lifestyle is.
Thank you.
He's all chill. So my other question, you mentioned about, learn the fundamentals. I'm somebody who loves, what not to do because I have a little bit of Schadenfreude. So what would you also say would be some of the core things that people really miss as far as, like you said, learn the fundamentals, but what are some of the other big mistakes that you see people making or steps that they skip?
They skip the follow-up. You don't want to make the one-time sale. I see this all the time. They have one product only, and you're missing 10 times the amount of revenue on the back end. That. So don't forget the backup sales on that, as well as your email really should never stop. I see that a lot too. And just because they go through the first series, you either get them on a different list or continue adding more emails to the list that they have. And for us, we just keep introducing new lists and driving them to the new lists and getting them on there. So that's probably it. Another thing too is chasing the shiny object. I see it too many times. People, and I'm not saying don't buy stuff. I mean, I want you to support my friends and family, but you have to understand you're either going to use it or you're not. And in fact, at MetaMind, we had conversations about people had said that they're so concerned about having people consume the products because if they don't consume it, they won't buy it. Well, take a look at any one of my number of bookshelves, and there's $2,000 courses that I bought that I've maybe opened up once, but I found that one thing that I needed out of it. So I'm not saying don't buy it if you don't need it, but don't be so enamored you think that shiny object is the magic bullet that's going to solve everything for you. Put it to use. So do it and say, okay, I've got this product this month. I'm going to set forth an hour every single day where it's just that product we're going to do. When I first got started in this business, I realized that I hadn't understand copywriting. So the mentor that I hired was John. I hired John Reese at one point too, but John Carlton from a copywriting standpoint. And at that point, I wasn't even planning on having to know copywriting because I was an affiliate marketer. But then I realized I need to still understand to write emails that convert people into buyers for other people's products. Plus, I was collecting emails eventually as an affiliate marketer after a couple of years, and I got smart. So John Carlton, I bought his book, and we went to Arizona, and I went through it every day. I sat out back, read it one by one, and I learned it for what I could. And then we've gone on since then. And it's got to the point now that where I buy courses just because I want to buy them. I don't necessarily go through them, but I feel damn good that they're sitting on my shelf. And trust me, John Carlton, Scott Haynes, and a couple of other people, Gene Schwartz, I pull their material out every time I sit down to write, whether it's a headline for an opt-in page or write an entire sales letter or even a sales video script. I pull those types of courses out all the time. So you get the fundamentals, learn the fundamentals, you always refer to those, and then if you get a new shiny object, don't think it's going to solve everything. Make sure you go through the fundamental stuff first.
Thank you. That is one thing we picked up at the Success Summit, that all these people we talked about, they're always reading something and always learning something new and then taking what they need from it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. My wife threw away all my bookmarks. She thought she was doing me a favor. She goes, I found all these jewels inside table. I said, those are my bookmarks. She's like, so,
oh, that's funny.
So, Jeff, my little history is that I suck at social media, and I never did anything in email marketing and all that stuff because I didn't know what to say. And learning like a little system or format felt to me very inauthentic. It felt like I was, reciting someone else's words, and it wasn't my own. And when Google Plus came out, it was the first time where I found my voice, and I found that, just speaking the way I speak without trying to be all resume-like or salesy-like or marketing-like worked very well. What do you think? How do you think internet marketing is changing now with content marketing, as we move towards more engagement and what I call emotional SEO, where you have to connect to people in the heart rather than the mind? And I know you were saying like everything is emotional triggers. We buy because of emotions and then we rationalize it. Yet I know there's like formula step by step, like Jeff Walker launch formula, right? How do you combine that with who you really are?
Well, you can always find your own voice for everything, but I would argue that content marketing is nothing. It's something we've been doing from the very beginning of the internet itself. And we've been able to follow. You see some people that are still here. 10 years later is a long time in this business.
Yeah.
I've got dozens of friends that have been around very successful for 10 years or more as well, because they always found their authentic voice and they always produced good content. Yes, there's a formula to it, but when I write copy, I don't follow their voice in it. I just look for, okay, what's the structure? There's a different type of lead style that I need. And we could go into hours about the copywriting part, but it's always find your voice, always be authentic in whatever you do, but you still have to follow a proven formula. The problem I see with content marketing is it's great. They've got VC backer money coming in and they're burning through it, $2 million a month, and they got all these people cranking out content. A lot of them aren't making any money because they don't have a clear path to profitability out there. Well, you can still produce content as long as you know it's a means to an end. It's what we've always done. For me, it was putting out the really good stuff that brought in the people that said, wow, if this is what he's giving away for free, imagine what he's going to give us if we pay for it. Well, it's always been content marketing. There's always a formula that has to be found. So sometimes I'll find myself writing an email and I think, you know what, that's not me. And I'll still send it out and then it bombs because it's not me. You go back to the basics of finding your voice. So it's always been content marketing, and it's always been finding your own voice. The biggest problem I have with the mentality of content marketers these days is they don't realize that it's still a means to an end. It's marketing. You still have to be able to convert those visitors and those readers into leads and leads into sales. And that's a mistake I see all the time. We're still marketing.
Especially with women, right?
No, I didn't say that. So.
I'm saying that. I'm saying, we're so trying to get...
I did not say that.
Not putting you on the spot. Let me take a question from Kristen, and then Layla, you're next. So Kristen is watching us on the stream, and she's asking, many people teach to build a business with the end goal in mind of being able to sell it later. How do you do that when you are your personal brand?
Well, that's a struggle, and that's a struggle that I deal with. In fact, I had the conversation with my stepmother when she was in town a couple of weeks ago, and that's something that we still have to find a balance between. It's possible to be done. The only way you will sell a business that is a personal brand is if you build systems and processes into the business itself. So then all you have to be is the figurehead. A company that acquires you comes in, and they've got staff that's been trained, they've got the process maps, they've got the operational manuals, they've got the body of content that you've produced over the years. That's a saleable asset. The problem is most people that are in their own brand, with the exception of some of the big guys, is they don't run it as a business. They're putting out content, they're doing an update here, they're doing an update there. They don't realize that their knowledge base is their source of potential income going forward, but it can't just be the knowledge base. Someone has to be able to step in and take over immediately and know what's going on in the business. Something happens to you, they can still sell your legacy if they have operational people or operational manuals in place to do it. And that's a great question.
It's still a system. So it's basically setting up a system that carries your name forward, kind of like the Tony Robbins thing, right? Tony dies, but his legacy goes on and his trainers continue to train. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're very, very qualified trainers in his business. So.
Layla, unmute my friend.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me? Good. My question is, we have a soft product. We're dog trainers, and we do a lot of content marketing, so we do a lot of education. And EFOT posed the question to me the other day, do you want to sell stuff or do you want to educate people?
Yes.
Well, we're struggling with that. I find it very hard to sell that type of a soft product because there is so much information, and I'm, of course, not the best copywriter in the world, but trying to touch the pain points doesn't seem to be really getting the goal that I want.
What is it that you're selling? Is it a training manual?
Well, we have different products. We have a DVD on puppy training, and we also have some downloadable products on dog training, but we also do dog training in person. And we're starting to do hangouts on dog behavior because we can do that without geography being an issue.
Yes, you can. Well, I have been in that business before, and it's a very lucrative business to be in. And what's funny is I was just helping out a friend. Frank Curran was doing it. It was a 7-figure business for him. But the funny part is that the majority of his product and where he learned this stuff was public domain available information. Anyone can get their hands on it. So once again, it comes down to the marketing standpoint of it. So we built up a landing page, and it was his company, and my job was just do the landing and the split test and the SEO stuff. And it was offering the free content, but not unless they traded us their email first. And then the email, we'd follow up, and we'd be cool. We delivered more of this. Sometimes we sent an audio, sometimes we sent out a video, or just text, and built a relationship. But you have to remember the 4 phases that we talked about earlier, the 4 phases of email marketing selling. Always get them on the list first. List first, sell second is what I always say. You can be a content marketer, but make sure that there's a clear path into your funnel on every single piece of content that you issue, and make sure there's a clear call to action and reason why that they should enter into your funnel. So you're still content marketing, but the whole goal is driving them into the lead funnel itself. Once they get in there, you start with a warm-up phase, and you're giving them content, but you don't give them all the content until they're on the list. And once you start giving them the content, you're still making the soft offer, saying, hey, by the way, if you think that's great, you should check out our DVD system. And then you say, we've got these hangouts. And then you start gradually moving them through the funnel. And you're always trying to find the touch point where you can deliver content, but never forget, each time that you deliver content, the end goal is to make a sale. And you can't do that without the marketing. You don't have to be a jerk when you market. You can say, hey, you know, by the way, I've got this fantastic program. We put this DVD together. I brought one of the local experts in. He's one of the nationally recognized experts, and it's available if you'd like it. And then with hard copy sales like that, if you don't know the people, do the people know you before they come into your lead funnel? You have to have your presence first, and you well-known person that shows up on TV and stuff like that, or are you just out there running ads to get them to your content?
We're not running ads. They know us locally, and they're starting to know us. We get a lot of people opting into our list from the UK and Canada, and we're in Texas. So I would say they know us from our content, and then locally they know us from our visibility here.
Well, it's a little bit easier sale. When you're writing copy for people that know you, you can be more direct. You have to do less emotional pain points, less selling, and just here's what we have. So that's fortunate for you. From a local dog training perspective, are you on Facebook with a fan page?
We are.
Encourage them. It's not getting to the fan page, it's getting them to become engaged with the fan page. So what happens is Facebook on the fan page, if you build up 10,000 people on our fan page, and you can do it for 6 cents a piece, it's something that we do. If you get 10,000 people on there, Facebook a couple of years ago started saying, okay, you can't post something now on your fan page and reach all 10,000 of your fans. We want to make money for our investors, so you got to start paying us for your message to be seen. And that's the only way from an organic standpoint. It's not even organic, you're paying for it. But if your followers are engaged with their page, meaning they're liking the page, they're sharing the page, or they're commenting on the page, anytime they're engaged with the page, that then multiplies their engagement by a factor of 100 or more. The average Facebook user has 165 to 200 fans, or people connected to them. Well, they don't have the same limitations that we have. When we set up a fan page and we write something on it, Facebook cuts us off at the knees because they want to make money. We understand it's their business. But when your fans start engaging, then that starts spreading out virally. We also know that word of mouth marketing is something that people listen to. So if I was in your situation, first of all, I take a look at every touch point of content that I put out there. I make sure there's a clear path and a reason why they should be entering into your lead funnel. Get them in the lead funnel first. Then take a look at your follow-up sequence and say, okay, am I delivering value with my emails? Am I delivering my personality in the emails? But where should I start making the sale? And I'd say within the first couple of emails. We used to do it right away. They'd join our mailing list. First thing they'd see was the offer on the letter. And that worked very well. But you might not be comfortable doing that. But just take a look at the funnel and say, okay, is every piece of content clearly driving them into a sales funnel? Is there a reason why for it? Do I have a call to action that gets people want to take action? Then what I would be doing also in your situation is I would be all over a Facebook fan page. And because you're worldwide, you've got the DVDs and you've got the Google Hangouts that you can do as well too. So I would start figuring out what gets those people to be engaged. Do you have to give away free job training credits? Do you have to have a personal one-on-one webinar or a hangout that you'll do with someone and once a week you give it away or once a month? But find something and talk to your lawyer first before you run a contest. But sweepstakes and contests are very powerful. We've launched entire sites in markets we have no experience in and had 26,000 members join in the first month or two by simply getting those people engaged. It was a celebrity market was one of the things that we did. And they love to talk about that stuff. Well, what do we know about people with dogs? They love to talk about their dogs. So if you can get them to talk about it, engage, and then try to bring your brand into the conversation, then that's spreading out virally, and that's where I'd be concentrating. And from a DVD standpoint, too, who does your production and shipping for you on that?
Well, we do it. Have you ever heard of Kanaki?
Yes, I use them. Right?
Yeah, that's who does it.
How many DVDs are there in a set that you're trying to sell?
It's one DVD. It has 11 videos on it, but the beauty of it is on the inside cover of the DVD is a link to go back to our website, register their product. They get a downloadable 52-page training manual, special reports, and 30 days worth of email. We sell that for $97.
Do you check how many of those actually lead back to you? It's called a bounce back, that come back to you because of that thing that's in the DVD itself?
No.
You don't know if they're more valuable than your other clients? Because something I would do, because I use Kanaki, and I know that we do stuff where we'll give it away to build the list and to build a relationship, and our cost of fulfillment to have it produced, packaged, shipped anywhere in the world is around $7.25, $7.30 per. So in multiple markets that we've done is let them have that DVD for free as long as they cover shipping and handling, with the concept of saying, oh, we'll ship it to you, you examine it for 30 days, and then we'll charge you whatever, $97 for it, or you can return to us in the first 30 days. I mean, it's a model that's been around for 100 years. Fortunately, it works very, very well. And if you look at what Brandon Bouchard was just doing and Jeff Walker, those guys are giving away 40,000 books, and it costs them a lot. They're paying for those books, but the reason they do it is they now have a piece of real estate on that person's shelf that has their book and the contact information in it. And the bounce backs, like you've designed in yours, will bring people into the fold, plus it helps build brand recognition, and people remember it when they see it. Well, they're also selling them these much higher training programs on the back end. So if you can get to the point where your profit models are that way, even if it's the DVD that you're selling, try letting them have it for 30 days for free. Just pay the shipping and handling. Non-refundable shipping and handling, $7, $8, cover your entire cost of production. Tell them in 30 days, if you don't ship it back to us, then we'll charge you $97 or 2 payments of $48, whatever you want to charge them. And that's the way to approach it. But I think from a local standpoint, also going out national like you are, fan page, just remember it has to be about engagement. It's not about posting content. It's about engaging the people on the page, because when you do that, that just builds in a whole new world of viral. I don't call it.
And let me just say that, Jeff, because you don't know me yet on my Hangouts, we don't say the F-bomb. But all that stuff works very well on Google Plus as well.
You don't say F-bomb free stuff? Is that the F-bomb?
No, F-bomb is Facebook.
The face.
Facebook. Oh, what's the F-bomb? I didn't think I swore.
No, that F-bomb, yeah, and I can say it all day long.
Yeah, we got that one.
I'm sorry, Google Plus, I don't know. We've tested extensively on Facebook, and our clients have had great success there as well, too. So, what about the
I know.
F-bomb?
You know what, Jeff? After this hangout, you and I need to, get together. I'll work with Anthony, and we can start doing testing on Google Plus and AdWords.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. He's like, nah, not worth the trouble. I got already stuff that's paying my bills.
That thing that you don't want to talk about works very well for local businesses. We just had a meeting last night with some people for restaurants in Dallas, Texas area, and the last meeting we had, they've had phenomenal success. Added 8,000 people to their mailing list, are rolling out more social media, and Facebook, unfortunately, is a big part of the social media that works.
No, totally fine. It's it's an internal joke, but really, Google Plus works just as well. Aside from that, where do you see? I know we have a few more minutes, and I have a few more questions coming in. Do you have time, or do you have to leave in 5 minutes?
Well, let's answer some questions.
Awesome. Okay, so Mia, you go first, and then I'll take one from the audience.
Okay, so just a couple things. What do you think is the most oversaturated that you see that's online that people are selling? And that could be niche or product.
I couldn't even tell you, to be honest. The one thing I think is oversaturated, though, are people who are trying to teach people how to make money online. They don't actually. That, I think, is the most oversaturated market. That doesn't mean there aren't people that can teach you to do it, but I see that, and I say, you know what, the only way they're making money is selling the idea. And that doesn't mean you can't coach someone, but I think the big boys have done it first in other markets, and then they come on and they teach. So to me, that's oversaturated. But I meet people all the time that you would think that the health and fitness market is saturated or the dieting market is saturated, and these people come in out of nowhere and actually crush it. Once again, it's implementation of the marketing. So I don't think there's any market that's oversaturated if you get the marketing right. So last year, year before, this guy came out of nowhere supposedly for abdominal exercises, and I know some guys making millions doing that stuff, and everyone says, oh, it's oversaturated. Well, the guy took over, and he's become a sensation, and what he did, he successfully implemented the marketing itself. So I don't think there's any market that's oversaturated.
I love the combination of it being a non-scarce mindset, which is great, and then you're right, it's how you launch it. He probably did 4-minute abs, tried to beat the 6-minute abs guy, right?
I love that movie.
I was wondering if you get that. Thank you.
You know what's really interesting about that? It's not just the scarcity mentality that you're changing for people, moving to abundance, but also the fact that there's always someone new on the market, right? It's like, why don't it be you? So the question for that, Jeff, because you were saying, it's not an overnight thing, but yet a lot of the internet marketing advertising we see out there, it's like, look at this guy, in 1 week he made $400,000, and you can too, just buy my stuff.
I was fortunately one of those guys, and what's funny about that was Mike Filsaime was a very good friend of mine, and Eddie Jenkins had this launch. They're like, be suspicious of those basement internet millionaires at Fontaine. Well, that was one of me. I said, oh, what? If we're such good friends, I'd take it personal. It doesn't happen all the time, and I don't tell anyone. If you see my marketing, I'm not promising. In fact, I've always said, hey, just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy, and it does take work. You've got to learn how to do it, but it is possible, and I believe it is possible. So can they do it overnight? Yeah. I've seen it happen many times. But usually when it's happening overnight, they have the assistance of somebody who's successful, someone who wanted to help them out. So if you came to me and said, I've got this great product, and the product converted well, if I mail it out to my list and these people buy 300, 400 units of a $2,000 product, you just made a boatload of money. And that's happened where I've helped people out before where Frank Curtin would introduce someone to me, and they're newer to the marketplace, and they had $3.5 million on the launch. Well, they couldn't have done it without knowing someone. And what happened was they had helped Frank and some other guys with some of the paid marketing aspects of it behind the scenes. And then when they wanted to come out with their own product, like, yeah, we want to help. We'll help out. And then someone else. And same thing happened with StomperNet. I got a phone call, and they said it was one of the guys that was representing them that I knew. He was actually the guy who was at that one seminar. I says, how the hell do you know all these guys if you're not even in the business? That same guy I knew from that conference called me and wanted to know if I wanted to help out. I didn't know the guys that were launching, and I said, well, since I know you and some of our other friends are involved, they came out of the gate too, and they went from 0 to, I think they claimed, and I'm not saying, I think they claimed they did 25 million, but that was not, that would be it may be an over-exaggeration on the accounting end of it. And it's not saying it's representing it, but when someone comes into your lead funnel, you set up payments. Okay, I understand that. So yeah, if they've got a 12 payment plan in place, so yeah, you probably multiply what they collected in 12. And they're very legit guys, but back then we didn't know what to do. That was 2005, 2006. Like, holy shit, we just did this $20 million launch. And you take the money in. And when you're doing launches too, people have to remember, depending on the price point, if it's a lower price point, you might collect 2/3 of the money up front if you design it correctly, and then a third of it comes on the back end. But on the higher price points, you're still going to see 75% of the money taken by, let's say, 6Pay, which is very popular. So if you do a $2 million launch, well, if 75% of the people took a 6Pay option, you got to wait 6 months to get paid. And through attrition and credit cards that don't go through and refund rates, you don't collect all that money. So yeah, we say, oh, we did $2 million in a week, but the reality is we'll probably collect 1.4 of it. And that's
no, really? That's heartbreaking.
I didn't see go away.
No, but it is true. It is. You have to take into it. So, okay, so what I've heard, the biggest nugget that I've heard right now is that it goes back to a relationship. Either a relationship with your list or a relationship with people who have lists, who have relationship with their list. So again, it's all coming back to how do you develop that one-on-one or one-to-many relationship that can catapult you, and if not, then you would spend the time to build your own relationship with your own list.
Well, one of the best ways to do it, and I did it myself, was attend seminars originally. And when you meet people, just be cool. You're not there to advance your own agenda. You're there just to meet people and help them achieve what they need to achieve. So even when I started finding success, I was freely teaching people, and I wouldn't take money because I was doing my own thing. I was raising my kids, didn't want clients, so I'd freely give to them. And they'd tell someone else about it, and I'd get a phone call from someone else. And then John said, hey, can you help us out with this thing for my Triple Your Profits? It's called Triple Your Profits, but most people call it Traffic Secrets is what he called the product. And I said, sure. And he asked me, well, can you put some stuff together for me? I said, sure. I was at the seminar, and he came to me and said, my back's really hurting. He was a sole speaker, and trust me, I understand that because standing all day could kill you. And then I just stood up and shared what I'd written for someone else to give, and that just started the whole thing. You have to give. Something else online, too, is I met some of the other people I met is I would go out and promote their product. I didn't ask to promote mine because I didn't have one at the time. And I was making more money sending the traffic someplace else. So, for example, John Reese, I was driving traffic to him for his eBay product. And everybody told me he was the genius you wanted to meet. We went to our first webinar, our first seminar, and people are up on stage, and they're talking about they're making $100,000 a year, and there are people in the audience that were already making millions. And I said, well, who's the sharpest one here? And they said, well, John Reese. I said, well, I want to get to know him. I got nothing to offer until I learned how to drive traffic. So I could have driven my traffic someplace else. I was making 2 to 3 times as much money, or I could do the long game, which is I wanted to get John Reese's attention. So I sent all the traffic to him, and he reached out to me and said, I really appreciate the business. Where are you getting all this stuff? And I said, well, I'm doing it with SEO, and here's what I do. And I freely told him what I was doing. I wasn't afraid he was going to steal it from me. And we became good friends, and I inadvertently spoke at his conference, and it worked out. And that's where I met Yannick, and I met Jeff Walker and Frank Kern at the first summer I went to, and then Yannick I met at John's event, and then for my 40th birthday they were all taking me out to party and gave me bourbon and talked me into speaking at Yannick's event. And at that point you have to remember I was already doing it. I was already doing all the affiliate marketing stuff, and I went from little to very much overnight, but I still didn't want to capitalize on it because my kids were still young, and my wife, who worked hard to get her degree, didn't want to leave work. She didn't think the money was real either. She saw the checks, I mean, huge checks, $2,000-$3,000 a day, $100,000 months, and she didn't think it was real. She was spending it. She had fun buying stuff with it, and it's
monopoly money.
Why won't you leave? I understand you got a master's, you worked at nights, weekends to get it, and she was allowed to work from home because she turned down some promotions because I said, you know, you don't go to the office, but he had said, oh, well, we'd have to get our own life insurance. I'm like, well, how much? Not life insurance, health. Well, how much would that be? He's like, $1,000 a month. I'm like, are you kidding me? Eventually, she got smart and left, and now, you know, she's enjoying it.
That's so cute. It's yeah, I totally understand her. You know, being a mom and stuff like that, you're always kind of like, oh, my nesting egg. Okay, so 2 more questions, and then we will let your brain rest. One from Pierre. When you started your internet business, how much money did you invest as a startup?
Well, that's a good question. I had spent about $15,000 before I made my first penny online, and my accountant thought I was crazy. That's when I decided to do things my way. Originally, I started out, I was buying different products, taking a look at the stuff, and then I thought, well, why don't I do it my way? That's when I locked myself in the basement for a month, studied SEO because I understood that you can't sell anything until you get the traffic. And I knew I could sell. I'd spent my whole career teaching people how to sell and selling myself. So I needed traffic. So I figured traffic is the means to the end of getting people to my website so I can sell products. So I learned traffic. Now, once I learned traffic, then I came out of that basement and within weeks went to making $2,000 or $3,000 a day in pure traffic. So I was one of those basement overnight guys. But the few months leading up to that point, I'd spent $15,000. And the problem was I wasn't implementing when I was buying all the products, and I was hiring people to do the work for me because I didn't want to do the work. But then I had no idea of were they doing a good job or not. And that goes back to us saying you got to learn the fundamentals. Once that happened, my overhead, when I was making that, when I first started out and I was doing the six-figure months, my overhead was about $150 a month.
Nice.
It was a couple of shared hosting accounts, and that's it. And I sat in the backyard. If the weather was bad, I sat inside. And then my first office, I thought I need an office. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this stuff. And I rented a 6-suite office space. I'd go in every couple of weeks to blow the dust and the cobwebs off the equipment, make sure it was still there. And then I said, all right, well, I'm going to do it. I'll just buy a place. And that's so literally, though, to get started online, I think several $100s as a startup is all you need. You need an email marketing system. You can start out with MailChimp, but I wouldn't because you'll outgrow that quickly if you have any success whatsoever. Aweber is a fairly attractive. Constant Comments, another content is another one that you can use. Find a reasonably priced, powerful email system that you can grow with. You need that. So let's call that. I don't even know what they charge for that anymore. Is it 30?
Aweber is like 20. It's like $20 a month, and then if you get over 2,500, it's another $10 for every.
So there's $30 right there. You need a share hosting account for $5 a month, $10 a month. That's all you need to set up. In fact, you don't even need that. You can use Google Plus. You can use Facebook.
That's a big hug for you, Jeff, right there.
He learned so quickly, didn't he? I love it.
You don't need to have your own website to make these things work out. And then Tumblr actually is a social networking site that has the blogging aspect built into it. So that actually helps everything you post go viral itself. So you really don't need it. So your overhead right now could literally be $50 a month to get started in this business. Ifat was not lying. She said you can find information to get started, but then you don't build the relationships. You don't get to ask the questions. You don't come. I met Ifat at one of my seminars, and it was in Detroit, correct? Was that?
Yeah, and you know actually how we got there? This is a great story actually that shows how well your funnel works. I've been following you for I think 2 or 3 years, getting your videos and everything, and then Chris Farrell, I can't remember who he made that. The work it was in Mike Phil Sam, I think, right? They had a $2,000 product. And I got an email from you saying, hey, if you buy through my affiliate link, again, total honesty, transparency, if you buy through my affiliate link, you get to meet me in Detroit. I'll cover your ticket. And I was like, sweet, I got the stuff from this guy for 3 years. Now I get to meet him in person. Definitely doing it through his list. And that's how we met.
And at MetaMind, unexpectedly.
And then MetaMind, yep.
All about relationships. Got to get out there, people. And you gotta go to the bar. You don't have to drink. But the deals happen in the bar. I swear, I've said it for years. Says it. That's where we meet all the best people and do the best deals. So.
Yeah, Jeff was like sitting outside. I think it was day 2, and it was all becoming very woo-woo for us. And we were like sitting outside, and I'm like, Jeff, did you hear about Google Plus?
Oh, MetaMind? Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankie still tells me text. She's like, how would you think about this? Like, yeah, you know, we only met the guy for 2 days, and he knows me well. Some coffee, he sent me some supplements because that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm not gonna bash that thing there. So okay, so last question, and then we're done. Elaine is asking, what technology do you use for your autoresponders? Are you with Infusionsoft or Aweber?
For neither. For my autoresponders, I have my own hosted server system that we have our own super servers, and I mean super servers for. And we use a software program that's called Interspire Email Marketing. It's a fixed cost of about $700 to buy the software. However, we spend significantly more than that because we've got to have a high-end server that runs it, and then we also port it out to a deliverability company that makes sure that we're getting the deliverability rates that we need. So it's more. I do use Entreport. It used to be called Office Autopilot, and we use that as a secondary system, but that's our CRM system, and that's a shopping cart system. However, it also has email functionality built into it.
And that's also a relationship, right? Because that guy also was at MetaMind.
Yes, Landon. I met him through Evan before.
Yeah. The whole Evan circle. So, Jeff, where do you want people to go? Because obviously my site is your old blog.
Traffic and Leads Training Academy. They can go to that blog. That's fine. That's fine. The newest one, the newest content that you were referring to is actually trafficandleadstrainingacademy.com.
And you guys can see it right there on Jeff's lower third. So you will be getting tons of valuable information that you can start implementing today to grow your own business. What's that?
I said, I'll be trying to sell them something too.
That is true. You'll get tons of free content, and then you will buy something from Jeff because his word is gold. He makes money. Proof is in the pudding.
How many of us are actually fooled by people who act like they don't want us to buy anything but keep trying to get us to buy something? I mean, come on, embrace it. That's what we're marketers. That's what we do for a living. So that's it.
Yeah, well, and actually this is really interesting because I keep telling people who come to Google+, what do you want to do? Do you just want to make friends and be social, or do you want to actually build and sell something? Because these are two awesome strategies, but completely different.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Social media, biggest tip I can give you is make sure you put a clear path into your lead funnel with social media. I see people at Instagram with all these followers, but you can see their great pictures. You have no idea what they're trying to sell or how to get a hold of them. I see it all the time.
Yeah, like they contact us on websites where people are like, how do I engage with you? Yeah, agree with you. So guys, as you can see, Jeff knows what he's talking about. Join Traffic and Leads Training Academy. And one last thing that I want to say about Jeff is that, yes, you can get the traffic, but like you were saying, Jeff, if it doesn't convert, then who cares? You can dump a bunch of traffic on a site. If it doesn't convert, you didn't do anything. So Jeff's training really teach you how to build that relationship with people, engage with them, and convert them so that, you can stay home with the kids. It's awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Very much. I appreciate you guys coming out today. Our first...
Thank you.
Hey, first hangout.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.